How is it going? I hope everything is going well tech wise. I'm so used to everything just like fucking up. But have no fear. Brother Wes is here. Here with Carrion Comfort Studios. Welcome to Saturday night stream where we're doing the Alien Isolation Post-Mortem analysis. So we finished this past Wednesday our playthrough of Alien Isolation. So I'm going to be spending the next hour to an hour and a half talking about the game, things that I liked, things that I didn't like, and things that I found puzzling, and things that I found interesting about the game. I did a little bit of research, took some notes, and I am very, very excited to talk about this game. Hopefully, some of you that'll be watching will want to talk about this game as well. Um, so, also at the end of the stream, I'll be announcing what game we're playing next. I'm calling the poll a little bit early because there was such a staggering lead. So I'm going to go ahead and just call it there. But if you check out the Twitter, you can probably figure out what game we're playing next. But before we get into any of that, I wanted to go over a few announcements, some exciting things happening. If you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, then you have seen that most of my PC parts have come in. I'm still waiting for the CPU to make the brain of the whole system to make its way here. It's got about a week delivery. I had to hunt for the right one because the motherboard I'm using is like don't what kind of build? Don't ask me those questions. I don't know those questions. I am a fucking like baby when it comes to these things. I know that I have an Intel i9 processor. I was gonna do a Ryzen AMD processor, but the motherboard that I have, the Aorus motherboard that I have for it is more compatible with Intel. And honestly, there's no difference between Intel and AMD and like Ryzen or Nvidia or whatever they think. There's no difference between them. It's just brand names. It's capitalism getting at you. But yeah. So it's gonna be a full purpose build. It's gonna be for gaming and streaming, mostly because I need to get off of this rinky dink computer that I'm using right now that staggers and startles and stutters if I open up OBS and like Google Chrome at the same time. But yeah, it's my first time ever building a PC. I've never built a PC before. I've only had gaming laptops and like I've had like a pre-built before when I was in high school, but like I've never like had anything to like where I've built it myself. All the parts are just sitting on my table right now. I'm waiting for that, but I'm excited. I'm daunting. It's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. I hope it's worth it. Because like I've had so many people talk it up to me. They're like, "Oh, you're never going to be the same. You're never going to look at things the same way. You're going to be able to constantly upgrade and tinker with it." I'm like, I just need something that works. I just need something that like when I turn it on, I'm going to be able to play Witcher 3 and not worry about if the machine itself is going to catch on fire. Like the PC that I'm using currently right now is like going off like a jet engine. It is chugging. So I'm just trying to hope for that doesn't happen. But that's exciting. That's something new. I've been saving up money and trying to buy these parts a little bit at a time because it's very, very expensive. I've dropped $2,000 on this fucking rig over a. It's been what, 6 months period since we started quarantine. $2,000 over a 6 month period, trying to save up for it. So yeah, so it's exciting. So if anybody's donated or followed or subscribed or anything like that, you're the direct reason why this has happened. So thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You've also might have noticed that some of the things have updated here on the stream. I've got a new overlay. I've been working on a lot of different overlays. I've got an overlay set for me. I've got an overlay set for if I ever do interviews. I've got overlays set for Iron City by Night. Iron City by Night is coming soon. If you don't know what Iron City by Night is, it's a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition game that I'm going to be streaming right here on Carrion Comfort Studios starting in October. We do have a tentative Start date, it is going to be in the back half of October, closer to Halloween. I wanted to start at that time just for like specific story reasons, and also just kind of felt right. So we are going to be starting that on either the second to last or the last weekend, the last Sunday of October at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern. So 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern is when we're going to start doing that. I'm very excited. It's a Vampire the Masquerade Chronicle set right here in Birmingham, Alabama, which, if you're not familiar with, or if you are familiar with Vampire the Masquerade lore, Birmingham, Alabama is only mentioned in 6 pages of the Storyteller's Guide to the Sabbat, which was a book that came out in like first or second edition. So it's going to be the first time that that's been brought up. I'm so very excited about it. The players are very, very dope people. I've got Ravnos from Gehenna Gaming, who's playing a very, very, very awesome character. We've been talking a lot about him today. I've got Aid, or Ashley from Gehenna Gaming's Gehenna Valley, their Monster Hearts 2 campaign, playing a character that I'm also very, very excited about. Ellie Collins from ATL by Night will be having the opportunity to play instead of storytelling like she normally does over on their stream, which, by the way, follow ATL by Night here on Twitch and also subscribe to them on YouTube. Same thing with Gehenna Gaming. They're both wonderful people. And then the last player that will be kind of rounding out our coterie is a personal friend of mine, the one janitor, Kevin. Who is a phenomenal human being, a very close friend of mine, and I've had the opportunity to play Dungeons and Dragons with him in the past, but never Vampire the Masquerade. So I'm introducing him to Vampire the Masquerade. So this will be his first time playing. Check out his YouTube channel, by the way, the One Janitor. It's excellent stuff. And I'm very, very excited to be able to share my interpretation of Birmingham, the Iron City, with you all and with others, hopefully. So please, if you're interested in that, then please stay tuned. Check out the Twitter down below. It's the Twitter and the Instagram are right below me now, so I don't have to say it all the time. And so check those out. Go ahead and give a follow. And just stay tuned here on the stream and tell others that you think might be interested into it. And if you're not familiar with Vampire the Masquerade, that's okay. It's a tabletop RPG. If you're a fan of True Blood or the Vampire Diaries or anything like that, then I'm sure you will definitely get a kick out of this. It's going to be a great time. Let me go ahead and get some water here. There are new designs for the stream for Carrion Comfort Studios. There's 2 new designs. There's also another one that I've made before that are available right now on the store at thirsttrapmothman.threadless.com. You can check those out right now. Go buy a t-shirt. Starting, I think, September 1st, they're going to be having free shipping and like 10% off on certain different designs and everything like that. So there's going to be a little bit more incentive to buy. So you, in every single shirt you buy, every single like design or sticker or anything that you buy from the store, directly supports the stream. Same thing with the merch that's already existed here for the stream that you can find. That'll be the bot will bring it up. Nightbot will bring it up. But yeah, there's some exciting stuff happening. I'm very, very excited. I'm starting a diet on Monday. I'm going to be getting healthier, I guess. I'm not too healthy, but I'm going to be getting healthier here. So I'm going to be starting a diet. That's going to be exciting. But yeah, other than that, buy a t-shirt, follow on Twitter, tell your friends. Every little bit support helps. I think that's it for announcements. So I think we're good to go, good to get started with our discussion about Alien Isolation. So over the period of about 5 to 6 different playthroughs, I played through the main story as well as. Thank you for the host, Gehenna Gaming. Oh, that's so weird that it here. Oh wow. Where's that the alert box? We got to bring that forward. We got to bring alert box forward a little bit. There we go. Damn, that was weird. Thank you for the the host though. I appreciate that so much, Gehenna Gaming. And BG, welcome. But yeah, welcome. But so Alien Isolation over the period of 5 to 6 playthroughs, was able to play through the main campaign, and we also played through Crew Expendable, one of the DLCs. I didn't play Lone Survivor. I did a little bit more research on Lone Survivor, and that's just you play as Ellen Ripley, trying to get off the Nostromo at the end of the movie Alien. Both, but like really, really, really dope DLCs. They're both really fun. We'll talk about more of those at the end here. But I really, really want to talk about the game. So just to give a little background about Alien Isolation, because I didn't do it at the beginning of the stream or anything when we played through it. And if you saw the Last of Us Part 2 playthrough, then you know kind of how I do things. But Alien Isolation is a 2014 survival horror video game that was developed by Creative Assembly and published by Sega. It was originally for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and then it was ported to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's based on the Alien science fiction horror film series. It's set 15 years after the events of the original 1979 film Alien, and it follows the misadventures, I should say, of Amanda Ripley, who is an engineer and the daughter of the protagonist of the original Alien movie, Ellen Ripley, and she's investigating the disappearance of her mother. So very much different, like a different kind of setup from previous games that have been made about the Alien franchise. Most of them have been more action-oriented. This game, Isolation, places an emphasis on stealth and survival horror gameplay. It requires the player to avoid and outsmart a single alien creature with tools such as a motion tracker, flamethrower, noisemakers, flashbang, a shotgun, pistol, stuff like that. The tools that you would find on a space station. It was designed to resemble the original film rather more than Aliens, and it features a very lo-fi 1970s vision of what the future would look like. It runs on an engine that was built from scratch by the team at Creative Assembly, and so that it was able to accommodate all the technical aspects they were going for, specifically the atmosphere and the lighting effects, as well as the AI for the alien and the working Joes and the other enemies. They intended to make this game in third person, but they realized that putting it in first person would kind of ramp up and heighten the tension and the horror a little bit more, so they stuck it with first person. It got generally positive reviews. A lot of places gave it, a lot of like publications gave it rave reviews, and it sold over 2 million copies by May 2015, which is not too shabby at all. The critics praised the game for its art direction, its sound design, and the AI, but they definitely criticized the characters and its long runtime. We'll get into that a little bit more. It won several year-end rewards. It got Best Audio at the Game Developers Choice Awards and Audio Achievement at the BAFTAs. The game was also ported by Feral Interactive to Linux, OS X, and Nintendo Switch in 2019. To go into a little bit of the development of the game. So it was created by, like we said before, Creative Assembly, which are known for the Total War strategy video game series. So if you play Total War Attila or Total War Shogun or Total War the Warhammer series, then you're familiar with Creative Assembly. Magnets, how do they work? But they had just finished developing the game Viking Battle for Asgard when they approached 20th Century Fox and they wanted to conceive an Alien game. And Sega was able to acquire those rights for December 2006, and Creative Assembly had a very lucrative working relationship with Sega at that time. So a 6-person team developed the first prototype for it to pitch the idea, and where one player would control the alien manually while another would conceal themselves in an environment and try to hide from the creature, kind of like Dead by Daylight does now. They were kind of doing that before. The game captured the attention of Sega and 20th Century Fox, and they were approved. Before that, Creative Assembly had no experience with survival horror games. They had made strategy games and like third person action oriented games. So they hired people from studios such as Bizarre Creations, BlackRock, Crytek, Ubisoft, and Real Time Worlds for the project. So that hiring all those people took their team from a 6-person team all the way to 100 people by 2014. By the time they were crunching out the game by the end. They decided that they wanted to make it more focused on Alien instead of Aliens, so they wanted to be a little bit more scary and horror focused than the action oriented of James Cameron's film. So in order to be able to authentically capture the atmosphere and like the setting, 20th Century Fox sent over 3 terabytes of production material from the original production, including costume photography, concept art, set design, behind-the-scenes photos, video, and the film's original sound effect recordings. The head artist, John McKellen, exclaimed that it was a proper gold mine. They saw angles of things they'd never seen before. And during the first stage of development, the developers deconstructed the film to find out what made its settings unique, going down to the very scratch, like to the upholstery of the Nostromo and the random knickknacks that were around on that set. That allowed them to build the new environments that were much more faithful to it. Also, they were able to take the original soundtrack to the film and deconstruct it to like the raw essence of it, so that they were able to find the main like cues of when there was like something happening that was scary, or like to build up the tension so that it felt like you were living within the Alien franchise. So they used those cues as a template to be able to expand on that soundtrack. They also met with Alien and the Blade Runner editor Terry Rawlings, who's a close colleague and friend of Ridley Scott, to work with them about what kind of direction they need to go for with the story and everything. The most amazing thing to me was that they nailed the atmosphere. They nailed that whole aesthetic of what makes Alien. The game is gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. Them building that the engine from scratch really helped them be able to like, and that's one thing that like the first thing that I want to say about the game and applaud for it. Also avoid making Colonial Marines again. Yes, that buggy mess Colonial Marines. The thing that I want to applaud them for is the fact that this game is one of the best looking survival horror games I've ever played. It's on par with Resident Evil 2 Remastered, or perhaps Outlast 2, which was a very, very good looking game. For the environments and everything. The character models looked a little bit janky, but the environments looked really good. As well as Alan Wake for its time. It kind of reminded me of Alan Wake, because Alan Wake was a very good looking game for its time because of how authentic it felt and how authentic the town felt. This game oozes Ridley Scott's direction. The mist coming from vents, the lights, the Betamax and VHS recorders, the distortion on the monitors, the keyboards, everything. The hacking device, everything feels authentic and real to the movie series and to the experience that they were trying to convey. The lighting effects are gorgeous. This game, the one of the things that you won't hear me complaining about is the fact that this game is like, is pretty. It's very pretty. It's very, very, very good looking, and their work definitely paid off for that. Artist John McKellen noted that they had a rule: if a prop couldn't been made in 1979 with the things that they had around, then it wouldn't make it within the game either. So everything that you see, down from like the spaceships to the robots, the working Joes and stuff like that, they said that like it had to uphold that kind of like what the prop department had for the movie is what they had at their disposal for this game to make it fit. So to talk a little bit more about the story, Creative Assembly wanted Isolation to have a story that was closely related to the first film, and they decided to explore something set 15 years after the events of Alien, which would involve Amanda Ripley and the Nostroma's flight recorder. Writer Will Porter explained that the process of creating a backstory for Amanda was refreshing, and he felt that she was an overlooked character of the Alien universe. I mean, so overlooked that she's not even in the theatrical cuts of the for the most part. She's brought up, mentioned a little bit, and in the director's cut of Aliens, she's mentioned a little bit more. So very, very, very refreshing to kind of bring that in and tie the universe together and kind of expand on that. Actress Sigourney Weaver agreed to reprise her role as Ellen Ripley to voice small sections throughout the game because she felt that it was interesting and true to the film. Sigourney Weaver is a big fan of all the films. You must play Alan Wake. Yes, must play. I want to play Alan Wake on stream here at some point as well. That's probably going to be one of the next games that I look to play, especially after playing Control. Along with Weaver, the original Alien cast, including Tom Skerritt, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, and Yaphet Kotto, reprised their role for the game's separate downloadable content missions, including Lone Survivor and Crew Expendable, marking the first time that they were brought back together since release of the film. They all were created with 3D face scans, and a major story rewrite happened, and a major story overhaul was provided for those that was kind of cut, and so they just kind of made it a basic kind of DLC, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So the story had a completely different direction. They don't talk about what direction it was going to go, but it had a major rewrite happen around a year before it was released, and leftovers from it were discovered in the console build of the game. So there was a lot of things that were going to be explored within the game. It was supposed to be a much longer game. I think it was about 16 hours. It's a 16-hour playthrough. It was supposed to be closer to 20 hours playthrough. They were going to go in a little bit more about the Apollo core and things happening with the androids, and kind of Siegson being more of a villain until they kind of did the whole bait and switch, and you find out that later that Weyland-Yutani is actually the villain behind it, which is always the case for the Alien franchise. Talking about the engine, the game's engine is a proprietary engine that was built from scratch. They used the baseline for it previously in Battle for Asgard, and it was adapted to accommodate the technical aspects like the atmosphere and the lighting effects like we spoke about earlier, as well as the aliens' behavioral design. The engine's deferred rendering allowed artists to take place hundreds of dynamic lights in a scene and achieve great geometric detail. A major toolchain update occurred 6 months into development, and although the new tools eventually improved workflow, they initially caused major disruptions because previous work had to be discarded or ported into the new tools, taking valuable development time away from the team. The alien itself was designed to look similar to H.R. Geiger's original design for the creature from the film, including the skull underneath its semi-transparent head. However, and you can tell it in the playthrough, the designers of the game altered the humanoid legs to make a little bit more recurved, almost like a raptor, to provide the alien a walk cycle that would hold up to scrutiny during longer encounters with the player. And it also kind of gave it a little bit more alien feel to it instead of a human feel. Between 70 and 80 different sets of animation for the alien were created, and the alien's AI was programmed with a complex set of behavioral designs that slowly unlock as it encounters the player. That means it learns. It's a learning kind of enemy, which I did not realize until I was playing it and I continued dying by the by the alien. So it creates the illusion that the alien learns from each interaction and appropriately adjusts its hunting strategy. So every time you die as well, it gets more difficult because it's learning how to kill you and everything, which makes the game very, very hard and tedious later in the latter half of the game. Gary Napper, the gameplay designer, explains, "We needed something that would be different every time you played it. You're going to die a lot, which means restarting a lot. And if the alien was scripted, you would see the same behavior and be able to work around it. That makes the alien become predictable and a lot less scary." As well as that, he describes it, the save system that they had, instead of using auto saves and everything, the save system that they had where you had to plug in your key card into the different emergency phones around the station were inspired by a scene in the film where Captain Dallas uses a key card to access Nostromo's computer mother. The developers originally planned to add a feature that would allow players to craft weapons instead of just crafting the noisemakers and everything like that. And I love the crafting. The real time crafting mechanic was one of my favorite parts about it. But they had a part. They wanted to go further with that to where you had to craft weapons that would eventually degrade and break. But the idea was discarded because it took too much time. According to Gary Hope, we thought about what people would want to do in order to survive. We explored different ideas, and one of them was fashioning weapons to defend yourself. That was quite early on, but then we realized that this game isn't really about pulling the trigger. Another canceled feature was the alien's iconic acid blood as a game mechanic, which could melt through metal like in the film. Although the feature was reportedly implemented at one point, it was eventually removed from the game because developers felt it would change the course of the game in a weird direction. And I agree. If you shot the alien and its blood would pool and melt like acid, then you would be opening up holes in the floor, which would probably break the game in more ways than one, because then you would be able to maneuver through the space station, and like it would just be a buggy mess. Which I think at this point in time, you could, if they made a game like that, you could definitely handle it as such. Although the game is played from a first person perspective, the major part, most of the development time, well, about half of the development time, it was supposed to be meant for a third person view, but they changed that after realizing that it was scarier to be in first person. Hope explained that in third-person view, Alien Isolation would have become a game about jockeying the camera and looking after your avatar, but in first person, it's you that's being hunted. If you're hiding behind an object and you want to get a better view of your surroundings, you have to move. The development of the game took 4 years after Creative Assembly first pitched the idea to Sega, and it was released in September 9th of 2014. It was dedicated at the end, which we saw, to Simon Franco, a programmer of the game who died during its development. So, let's talk about things that I liked and didn't like. So, first off, like I said, the atmosphere, the lighting, the graphic detail, the sound design, all of it's fucking amazing. The soundtrack is outstanding. The assets that they built within the system are amazing. Graphically, I don't play many games like this. Last of Us Part 2 took my breath away. This took my breath away in a completely different direction. Even the character models, they seemed janky at times, but the character models, like in up close cutscenes, seemed very. I loved them in cutscenes. It's when you took them like in the in-game engine, they felt kind of weird. The story is, overall, I enjoyed it. Overall, the pacing is fine. There is a lot of lull in the latter half of it. I feel like the story kind of meanders. Instead of, because there's a lot of times within the game that when you're playing it and you're trying to achieve a goal, it does that thing that a lot of horror films fall apart from, where it puts way too many objects in the character's path. And not saying that the game should be easy or there shouldn't be challenges in the path of the characters and the players, but a movie needs to feel less like a race with hurdles, and more like a marathon. The tension and the drama should be coming from the fact that you're a person, you're tiring out, you're having to think on your feet and everything. It shouldn't come from the fact that you're constantly having something. There's a lot of times where Amanda is like doing something, she gets one thing done, something goes wrong. She figures out how to fix the thing that went wrong, she goes on and she carries on to the next objective, then something goes wrong. It feels very frenetic. It doesn't feel very fluid story-wise. There was a comparison that Turtle made towards the last half of the game that it feels very like Uncharted, which for an Uncharted that kind of feels right, because it's a pulp like adventure Indiana Jones Tomb Raider kind of thing, where like Like there's gonna be things that happen. You want to see the character, the iconic Nathan Drake going, must run faster, things like that, because it's an adventure game. It kind of feels like that. But this is a horror game. Like there should be more of a sense of dread. I should be more scared of the working Joes, the androids, and the other human characters and the alien more so than I should feel for the environment at times. Since the focus is primarily on the alien and on the enemy. Not saying that environmental danger shouldn't have been a part of it. Some of my favorite segments, like when you're trying to eject the alien in the Science Bay shuttle pod, and you get trapped inside of it, and like that's one of my favorite moments where you're creeping around. But when you're playing in moments where everything's exploding, and that's when the point when it does feel more like Aliens instead of Alien. And I think when you look at games like Dead Space or System Shock, they kind of nail that a little bit. Dead Space 2 kind of gets more into this Alien Isolation territory of there being more set pieces. And then Dead Space 3 is just set piece heavy. It's more of an adventure game as well. But the thing that Dead Space 1 did so well is that and that's the thing about horror movies in general, is that they shouldn't be set piece focused movies. They're not a Michael Bay film, and they're not like a disaster film like Poseidon Adventure or, The Towering Inferno or Twister or Geostorm. Those are more set piece focused, like natural disaster movies, and where the horror comes from the set piece. This is a horror game. Like this is a sci-fi horror game. So like I don't know. I think there should have been a little bit more focus within the story about the tension and everything like that. Also, the characters kind of feel a little bit more one note. There's not a lot of development for any of them. One of the few characters I liked Amanda. But I felt like there was no development in her character. She felt like a fully formed, fully developed character, which happens sometimes. But if you're having a more narrative focus on your game, especially in such a Joseph Campbell-esque thing as she's trying to get closure about what happened to her mother. She never receives that closure. She gets the final message that her mother left on the Nostromo, but she never finds out what happens to her. Which, I mean, we end up finding out later on in the movies, but within, it would have been nice to have a little bit more closure for her story, and it kind of would have made the ending feel a little bit more impactful. None of the other characters kind of stuck out. Axel was barely around. Waits was just gruff station chief. There was a lot of things presented on the station that I would have loved to explore a little bit. I would have loved to see a little bit more of the uprising against the colonial marshals and the people that worked on the station, the Siegson workers, the uprising against them. That would have been a little bit more interesting to go into and dive into. And that kind of would have gave Waits a little bit more development. The only character that I felt like very close to was Ricardo, who was one of the colonial marshals that was like a desk jockey who ends up helping out Amanda in the part where she's trying to find the core and trying to take the androids offline. He was great. He as a man in the chair. A guy in the chair that's like talking to you over your comms and trying to tell you things that are going on. It was satisfying to have a character along the ride with you for so long, instead of it just being Amanda and just having characters that were trying to take advantage of you. It was nice to have a character to care about a little bit more than your protagonist. Taylor, learned little to nothing about Taylor. There was Taylor, who came along with you and Samuels on the ship, who works for Wayland Yutani, learned little or nothing about her. Just the fact that she was supposed to be there to collect the alien for Wayland Yutani. That's all. It would have been nice to have her around a little bit more. Samuels, as such an interesting character, as having a bishop-like character who was an android that everybody knew that was like a Wayland Yutani model. It would have been nice to have a little bit more of Samuels. I like Samuels, but Samuels was barely there. Samuels was there for the beginning of the game for the first 15 minutes, and then he was gone for the rest of it. He showed up at one point in between that, and then 8 hours into the game, halfway into the game, he dies. You catch up back to him, and then he just dies. I don't know, like. I would compare it to how the MCU uses their villains. The only really villains that have had an impact are Loki. The ones that have survived are like Loki and Thanos, who was in like more than one movie. All the other villains that were like could have been pretty good villains are just killed off and tossed to the side. And so the development that you have with them is kind of stunted or it's cut off. That's kind of how I felt. A lot of reviewers said that the story was too long. I think we live in a day and age. I don't mind playing a 30-hour game. I liked Last of Us Part 2. I thought the pacing was great. I don't mind. I didn't think the game was too long. I just think that the pacing for it was you can tell that there were parts cut out, or there were parts that were intended to be there and they were cut out because they were cut for time. It feels very much like a Zack Snyder movie when he needs to drop a director's cut because he wants to make a 4-hour movie, and Warner Brothers is like, no, you can't do that. You have to make it like a 2-hour movie. It felt a lot like that, which is weird because with a video game, you don't have those same constraints. You should be able to have time to let the story develop and burn and build up. It would have been nicer to kind of see a little bit more stories of the station, a little bit more characters on the station. Sevastopol as a setting is great. It's a great setting. It was great to investigate Seegson, who is a constant and bitter rival of Wayland Yutani. Wayland Yutani is the Amazon Prime to Seegson's Wish. Like Seegson is Wish and Wayland Yutani is Amazon Prime comparatively. If you want to get your whole capitalist companies kind of like shipping companies kind of figured out, and it's like comparing Walmart to Target as well. And I would have loved to see a little bit more of that. Like the universe, it's why I love the Alien the role-playing game. I've got it over here on my shelf, is because it investigates the universe and the lore so much in depth that you're able to play around in it. And I would have loved to play around more in this world a little bit. And I don't, it doesn't have to be open world or anything like that. The game itself is very Metroidvania in that sense. I didn't find all of the ID tags, which were, I love collectibles, so the ID tags and the notes on the computers and the audio recordings, I love that. Like when the thing that like Ghost of Tsushima, which I recently played by myself because I didn't want to stream it, I kind of wanted to have a personal time with it because I just beaten Last of Us Part 2. The thing that a lot of games do well with collectibles is that the collectibles tie into the story and they tie into the world, so they feel like they belong. They don't feel just like random. They're not just like little blips or feathers that you have to hunt down and collect, or like dog tags or something. They kind of play in and feel and they belong. That's why I like games that have side missions that are like open world games, that side missions like The Witcher 3 that feel that they buy into the overall world and they kind of develop as like their own little story because they're a side mission, and they should. And I like that the game had that. I just wish there would have been a little bit more, I don't know, oomph to it. I did like the Metroidvania setup to it, is that there was parts of the ship the station that you could go to, but you're going to be woefully unprepared because you don't have the right tool for that job yet. I think if I would have spent a little bit more time in one of the missions towards the end, or if they had like a new game plus where I had all the tools, so that when I went back and played through the game, then I could go explore those areas a little bit more. Would have gave it a little bit more replay value. They do have a survivor mode that was released in DLC that was like different series of missions that you had to do in a time limit with like they had 5 additional downloadable content packs for the to expand the survivor mode. They had corporate lockdown with 3 challenge maps, trauma. So I think corporate lockdown was in the offices of Seegson on the station. Trauma was set in the medical bay and included a new character to use with 3 different maps. Safe Haven, which introduced, I think that was within like the residential area, which included a new character as well, as long as certain objectives. And Lost Contact, and then which is the same setting as Safe Haven, but had a different playable character, and then the Trigger, which included 3 new maps and a new playable character. I didn't try the survivor mode. I was kind of burnt out by the game by that point, which we'll about to get into a little bit more. And down the line, I might re-download the game and play the survivor mode just to try it out. But it's more arcadey. You're trying to score points and you're trying to beat a time limit. And there's not like a lot of story that expands it. I think you play different survivors on the station, trying to survive in the station. Spoiler alert, they all die. I did like Crew Expendable and Last Survivor though, which Crew Expendable, which is included in the Nostromo edition, relives a scene from Alien and involves the player controlling either Ripley, Dallas, or Parker, attempting to flush the alien creature from the air vents into the ship's airlock, which I think in the movie was originally done by Dallas, but you could play through all 3. I played it with Parker and Ripley. I didn't play with Dallas though, because it's in the movie, and you didn't get any extra trophies for it or anything like that, or any kind of like achievement or anything for it. And then they had Last Survivor, which was originally made available to players who pre-ordered the game, and it's set during the film's finale and it involves the player controlling Ripley as she tries to activate the self-destruct sequence. I played Last Survivor by myself. I didn't play it on stream. I played Crew Expendable on stream. But I loved both of those DLCs. They were cut and dry, they were simple, and it was very awesome to be able to relive moments of the movie. So that was very, very cool. That was very, very nice to include those within this collector's edition. So things I didn't like, and we kind of and I don't want to have like, I kind of like having free flowing talk. I don't want to be a structure because this isn't really a review. This is more of me just kind of like picking apart the game that I just played and the story and everything like that. So the pacing meanders, character development is weak. Let's talk about the AI, the alien AI. The first 2/3 of the game, I loved the alien AI. I felt so terrified every time I had that tracker, that motion tracker out, and I heard a blip or like the noise, or it started making that noise. I loved it. Like, I was so scared. I was terrified. And there's a lot of moments in the playthrough in the stream where you can see I'm like so hesitant to go down a corridor or to open a door or to do any objectives or to make any noise because I don't want to be found, I don't want to be eaten, I don't want to be killed. So like the first couple of times, and like they said, like, you know, the alien AI adapts to you, which is very, very cool. By the last third of the game, I was pissed off. I was annoyed, and you can see that in the stream if you go back and watch the VOD, and all of the whole playthrough is now on YouTube, so you can go check that out. But the whole time, I was just so annoyed by the damn alien just constantly being there, and I know at that point they suggest that there's more than one alien, but there was a lot of times when before you knew that knowledge, it felt like the goddamn thing just like spawned out of places, just random places. There was no rhyme or reason to its movement, which within horror, that's scary when like you're trying to track it and everything like that, and you're kind of losing it. But there's got to be rules in place. There's got to be to make the world feel realistic and like lived in and everything like that. There's got to be rules that it travels by. Scream the movie does this really well because there's you find out that there's more than one killer at the end. Spoiler alert for Scream, and that works for it. Alien, like, there's never one point where you're facing more than one xenomorph. It's always just one xenomorph that's stalking you in an area. If they made it clear that there was more than one, if you saw two of them at a time on screen or something like that, then it would be more understandable for them like randomly spawning in places and everything like that. But I get it, there's technical limitations, things like that. But like, it felt like they were trying to ramp up the difficulty when they didn't have to, where when you have the environment working against you as well as the enemies, you don't need to ramp up the enemy difficulty because your difficulty is already being ramped up. Because at the beginning, you don't have the you don't have the environment working against you. You just have the enemies working against you. So that sets that pace for that difficulty, and then you have a decision to make as a game designer when coming into these things. And I think about these same things with tabletop RPGs. To make it more difficult or make it more of a challenge, you have to ask yourself, do I want to up the stakes, up the difficulty of the enemy? Do I want to keep the enemy at the same level? And do I want to introduce the environment as an enemy as well? And that kind of like balances out things. Never in your time of like developing something like that should you think, okay, so now the environment's ramping up to being difficult, so now the enemy has to ramp up as well and be difficult. Because at that point, then you're playing a game like Neo or Lords of the Fallen or Dark Souls or Sekiro or something like that. And when you're playing a game like this, like I have expectations. When you're playing Dark Souls or something like that, you have expectations that like you're going to die. Prepare to die. It says it on the fucking marketing for Dark Souls 2, the worst one in the series. And it, like, you go in knowing that if you're going to play a From Software game or, like, a Dark Souls clone, then it's going to be tough and you're going to die. But they have mechanics in place to help curb that. That they turn death into a mechanic. There's no point. The only mechanic within this game of you dying is to make the alien more difficult. We talked about it with, like, Horror Girl, who a recent follower who was like watching the stream alongside and gave me a lot of tips and tricks, like mentioned and like I looked it up and it's completely true, is that every time you die it becomes more aggressive, the alien becomes more aggressive and more difficult, which doesn't seem like a natural progression. That seems like that's just going to cause your player, instead to be scared or alerted or anything like that, it's just going to be more angry, more aggravated, and I was definitely feeling that. I had a total meltdown point because there's a point where you have to go and open up. You have to sneak through a whole area, and you have to open up a door that's locked. But to do it, you have to go and unlock the door from a different computer screen. So you go through it and you unlock it from a different computer screen. And I saw that there was a generator that was powered up and it wasn't powered down. And I was like, that's weird that it won't let me interact with that at all. And then I made my way back to the door, and the whole time the alien's stalking you. And then when you hit the door, the power goes out. So you have to sneak all the way back through and turn the power back on, which causes noise. You have to hit the generator and then come back and then hit the door again. And I died. I counted. I went back and watched the playthrough, and I died about 28 times playing that portion. And at that point, it wasn't a fun mechanic. It wasn't a good time. It was aggravating. I wanted to stop playing the game. You can tell the frustration on my face. I stood up at one point and was like I was like doing like breathing techniques and like squeezing my hands and like doing different techniques that I've learned in therapy to keep myself calm. And I don't know. I just, there's a balance that you have to find, and it's tough. You're dancing on a knife's edge when you're making AI for a video game, and I'm talking like I'm a game developer. I'm not a game developer. I'm just a consumer. I'm just a guy that has played a lot of video games. And I would love to talk with any of the developers from this game. If anybody know them or how to get in contact with them, I'd love to have an interview with them and talk about them, about the game, and like kind of get a little bit more of their insight, because it's so interesting to me. And I know it's weird to say that I want to interview somebody from a game that was made 6 years ago. But I don't know. I just think it'd be interesting. But I don't know. Like, there's a balance you have to maintain with making things. And a lot of horror movies fall victim to this, of overdoing it. There's a subtlety to horror, just like there's a subtlety to comedy. And that's why horror and comedy go hand in hand so well, because if you overdo it, then there's nothing that can bring that back from people being uninterested in it. I don't know. The AI was dope at the beginning. To put it in short form, for too long didn't read. The movement and like the gameplay design, like the life support systems and like the whole saving thing. I had no problem with like the save points being so far apart, because they were very far apart. Like it felt like you were trying to make it to the next save point so you'd be safe. And at first that was terrifying, because I'm like constantly like trying to hear that blip of the save point noise, because I'm like, okay, I just made it through a very hellish point in the game. I don't want to die. And then you die gruesomely. But I don't know, like just the ramping up and the aggressiveness of the xenomorph and everything just felt cheap. I felt like I was being cheated. I felt like the game was cheating me out of something, out of the experience. But other than that, I mean, the atmosphere is great. The writing is so-so. The pacing is so-so. I don't know. It was. I had a good time with it, and I won't be playing the game again for a long time. I've spent a lot of time with it, but I won't mind. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind going back and revisiting it later down the line. I played it on medium difficulty, and I got to the point where I wanted to throw the game out the window. I can't imagine doing a Nightmare playthrough. Nightmare with like the ramped up difficulty. There's much less supplies around. Another thing, the crafting. Oh yes, the crafting. I love the crafting mechanic. Crafting med kits and crafting like things to heal yourself, things to distract. Like all that was fucking phenomenal and great. There were items in that crafting menu I did not use at all. I used one flare in my whole playthrough of the main game. I used a flare in Crew Expendable because the gameplay called for it, because you needed to lure an alien in some place. But there's not one point where I used a flare because I didn't find it necessary. The revolver I used barely, because the revolver felt so underpowered compared to when I had a shotgun that I used against the Working Joes. The bolt stick I used so much, but there's barely any charges around for it. So like once I ran out of charges for the bolt stick, I didn't use it again. Like, why would I use it against the xenomorph as well? It was only useful against the androids. The flamethrower became my prized possession. That was the only thing. That and Molotovs and pipe bombs were the only thing that scared off the predator or the alien. But only sometimes, because sometimes the game would bug out when you would, and I found out later after Horror Girl told me that there's a bug that has yet to be patched in the PS4 when it was ported to the PS4 version, that the game, like the true, like the pinnacle playing, and I have it on PC, and I should have waited to play the game, but it got voted for. But the Supreme version is obviously the PC version, as what I'm learning for a lot of these games. Some of them is the console version. Some of them are PC version. But there's a massive glitch, like a bug that runs rampant in the game that like sometimes your attacks don't work. Sometimes when I would hit an enemy, the wrench would phase through, or sometimes when I'd throw a Molotov, it would fly through the alien's body, or it wouldn't affect the alien at all. In which the game has established that the alien is scared of fire because fire burns. It's like a cockroach. It's like an ant. It's like, oh no, fire bad. But like there's sometimes where it would just stand still, and you could see it would practically almost T-pose. And then it would attack me and eat me. The hiding mechanic, if you're hiding in lockers, there's a way for you. There's like a breath mechanic where you hold your breath, and then like you like move to the very back of the locker so that the alien avoids you or like glosses over you. But there's these very like short little cabinet things that you would hide in where that option wasn't available, and the alien would find you anyways. So there was like glitches like that. So that kind of like limited my experience. Overall, I highly, highly, highly recommend the PC version of this game. I don't. I don't highly recommend you play it. I recommend you try it out for yourself, especially if you're a fan of the Alien franchise. Then I highly recommend you play it because you'll get something out of it. If you're just casually passing through, definitely give it a check out and see if it's for you. If it's not, then it's no big deal. Get it on sale. I recently grabbed it when it was on sale for Alien Day for $3. And I got like the full version. So it was no like. I would say it's a rent it kind of thing. Rent it from Redbox or rent it from GameFly, or get it for cheap. Or if a friend has it, borrow it from them. But yeah, play it on PC though. If you have the option, play it on PC because I think that the game will be much more enjoyable for you than on console because there is that big glaring PS4 and maybe the Xbox One and the Xbox 360 and the PS3 original are like good, but the PS4 port it's bugged to hell in certain parts. So yeah. I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I'm glad I played it, especially as a fan of the Alien franchise. I love Alien so very much. I've got a tattoo that I'm planning to get that's like the Weyland-Yutani logo, and like I recommend it if you're a fan. But if not, then you're not gonna miss anything out on it. So other than that, I think that's everything I've got to say about Alien Isolation. To kind of talk about what we talked about in the beginning. So what I'm going to be doing on the Twitch stream here is going to be focused more on gameplay and like playing story narrative based games. Preferably horror games, but I'm also going to be playing other story-based games. Like, I'm probably going to dip into the Dragon Age series. I really want to play through all of the Final Fantasy games, but I'm not going to be playing, unless it's like a community stream or like I'm doing a charity stream, which, by the way, if we hit 100 followers, then I'll be doing a 12-hour charity stream, playing stuff like Fall Guys or Call of Duty or stuff like that, playing people that like want to play with me. So let me know, hit me up. And tell your friends if they'd be interested to go ahead and follow. I love doing charity streams. I recently did a birthday not a birthday but the charity stream for the Humane Society, raised $420.69 for them in honor of Wally. And that was so fun. And I love charity streams. I love giving back to the community. I love giving back to charity. So the next time that I run a charity stream, if we hit 100 followers, then I would definitely be like going to the Equal Justice Initiative or Black Lives Matter or something like that, or donating to the Birmingham Bail Fund to help bail out protesters that are protesting social and racial injustices that are happening here in our city, donating to different charities around here in Birmingham. We're going to be doing that a little bit with Iron City by Night. Just a little bit of a reminder. Keep a focus. Keep an eye lookout for Iron City by Night updates. There are going to be more coming soon. We have our session 0 tomorrow night, so I'm very, 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 very excited. I'm not going to be recording that because it's going to be a little bit more private. We're going to be going in a little bit more of like some private information that we want to reveal through the narrative of the stream. Oh, big yawn, tired boy. I've got work early in the morning. So I'm excited for that. We've also got the poll for the next game that I'm playing here on stream. With a staggering lead with 48% of the votes, and the options were Control, Final Fantasy VIII, my personal favorite Final Fantasy game, Control, Final Fantasy VIII, the Life is Strange series, or Baran. you choose, like the community choose. Like I gave like an other, and then you drop below your suggestion below, which we had somebody suggest Dragon Age, in the Dragon Age series. Um, Out of with a 48% lead, Control is going to be our next game that we play. Um, FF8 is my fave. Yes, I really am cool. I really am cool, man. I love Irvine. I love Irvine and my boy Zell. Like I have to show some love, and like Gunblades and Squall, love it. Renoa, ugh. Um, yeah. So yeah, Control is going to be our next game here. I am very, very, very excited for that one. I started playing it, and like I was like, I need to like play that game. I know the Phasing Octopus is streaming it right now. We Yeah, like so go check out the Phasing Octopus. Go give him a follow. Go check out his SoundCloud. Do it. I know that sounds like a joke now in this day and age, but definitely go check out his music as well. Support content creators, especially somebody as fantastic and amazing as the Phasing Octopus. Um, uh, but yeah, Control, developed by Remedy Entertainment and published by 505 Games. Remedy Entertainment, if you're familiar with that name, you should be. Remedy Entertainment is the game company that developed the Max Payne franchise. They also developed Alan Wake and Quantum Break. And so Control. So Sam Lake is the writer and like the kind of like the poster boy for Remedy. I love Remedy games. I love all the Max Payne games. Even the third one, I have a deep love for fucking Alan Wake. Quantum Break. I can't wait to play that game on PC once I build this PC, because I have yet to play Quantum Break, and I really, really want to get into it. And then Control. I really, 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 really want to play Control. So, yeah, I wish they would put Alan Wake on PlayStation 2, which I think I have Alan Wake on PC, so I could play that too. So I might put that on the next poll to play Alan Wake and American Nightmare. But yeah, so Control is gonna be our next game. If you're not familiar with Control, I'm not gonna get too much into it. But it revolves around a clandestine U.S. government agency known as the Federal Bureau of Control, which is responsible for the investigation of paranatural phenomena which defy the known laws of reality. So it's a SCP story, focuses on the weird and strange and object of powers. You play Jesse Faden, who's voiced by Courtney Hope, who arrives at the oldest house, which is is a brutalist structure in New York City that is the headquarters for the FBC. And she arrives there seeking the whereabouts of her younger brother, Dylan. And you learn a little bit more about her past with the Federal Bureau of Control. I'm looking very, very, very much into getting into that. It's a Metroidvania game as well. The story is very tight, very interesting. The music is excellent. The atmosphere is excellent. The physics are fucking crazy. And the setting is just crazy. So I cannot wait to dive into that. And I think that is all I have for you guys this evening. You played your music over SCPs being read? That is so dope. That is so dope. Man, that's great. Okay. God, we have to collaborate on something here soon. Tipo, the Phasing Octopus, we gotta work on something together. I might get with you about some music and stuff too to work with, probably for some like Iron City by Night stuff. I'll be in contact. But yeah, definitely check out my man over here streaming music and playing video games. I can't wait to watch him play some more Suda51 games as well. But I think that is it for me this evening. I cannot wait to see you guys again. So looking up at the schedule, I think perhaps what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break this Wednesday, and then next Saturday roll on into the no. So we're gonna be okay. No. I got the schedule here pulled up right now. So this Wednesday I will be streaming. We'll be starting Control. So we'll be starting playing that. And then this upcoming Saturday, I'm going to be taking a break because it is AEW's All Out pay-per-view. So I'm going to be spending an evening of watching wrestling over here at the house with the housemates. So that's going to be a grand old time. So I'm going to take a little mental health break. I'm learning I need to do that a little bit more. So I'm going to be taking care of my own, taking a little break in between stuff. And enjoying some wrestling from AEW. So definitely check that out. Go grab that pay-per-view. Support wrestlers. Support indie wrestlers. Don't forget to check me out at Twitter at Comfort Carrion and on Instagram at Comfort Carrion, as well as my personal account out at BrotherXWes. Love to interact with people. Love to talk shit with people about horror and storytelling and movies and video games and everything. And be sure to check out thirsttrapmothman.threadless.com for all of my dumb, big, gay designs that I make. They're very sex positive. They're very, very wholesome, very, very funny. They're very dumb. But all of that directly provides some funding for the stream for me to upgrade it and keep it running. It ain't cheap, y'all. It ain't cheap doing this. Be sure to follow if you're not following already, and maybe think about subscribing as well. If you're a Twitch, if you have Amazon Prime, and that means that you have Prime Gaming, that means you get a free subscription every month, and you can help contribute to me getting paid. If I get one more subscription, then I get paid out by Twitch. So if you subscribe, I get paid. But yeah, and following and subscribing, that helps develop a more exposure for the stream as well, for other people to stumble upon it. Tell your friends, retweet stuff, and not just me, but other content creators that are making things as well. Like, please share their stuff. Go and get it. Social media is so important, especially in a time like today, to help other people and to get the message out and help other people. Especially support content creators, Black content creators, indigenous content creators, people of color, marginalized communities, people that are LGBTQ plus, invest in those, and invest in nourishing an environment for content creators like them that need a space to be able to have a creative outlet and to be able to be paid for their creativity. Help foster that and help nourish those. So if you have a content creator that fits under those guidelines, because I'm just a white dude, I'm pansexual, but I'm just a white dude, please go contribute to them. I've got a job. But if you got a little extra spare change, it doesn't hurt none. Also, Black Lives Matter. Keep that in mind. That doesn't stop happening. ACAB till I die. All cops are bastards. If this gets me kicked off the internet, I don't care. I've been saying it for every single fucking stream. Black Lives Matter. ACAB. Rest in power, Chadwick Boseman. You all have a great rest of your evening. Have a great rest of your weekend. And remember, comfort comes soon. Good night.